The cinematic world seems to have stopped breathing. Robert Redford, the emblem of a golden era. The man who once stunned Hollywood with his piercing blue eyes and quiet strength, has left us forever on September 16, 2025, at the age of 89. He passed away peacefully in his sleep at his mountain home in Sundance, Utah, a place he built not just as a retreat, but as a sanctuary for independent cinema. His final farewell was quiet, yet the void he leaves behind shakes the world. For more than half a century, Redford was never just an actor. He was a challenger of conventions, a storyteller who redefined beauty as depth of character and courage in truth. In his last years, as his health declined, he withdrew from the spotlight. What remained were his confessions of how age and illness proved harsher than any role he had ever played. And now, the man who once gave the world allure and hope ends his journey in heartbreaking solitude, leaving behind a silence deeper than applause. Before the fame, Robert Redford was just a boy from Santa Monica, California. Born in 1936 into a working-class family, he grew up restless, drawn more to art, nature, and sports than to classrooms. His father worked as an accountant, while his mother nurtured his early spark of creativity. Yet his youth was scarred by loss. At 11, he was struck with polio, an illness that left him paralyzed for weeks. And at 18, he lost his mother, the woman who had always believed in him. Her death silenced something in him, leaving behind a restlessness that shaped his art. Redford's early life was a struggle between destruction and discovery. Expelled from college, he drifted through Europe, painting, sketching, and learning freedom in poverty. That journey gave him a voice he would later pour into acting. In New York, Redford enrolled in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, honing his craft until Broadway discovered him. His breakthrough came with Neil Simon's Barefoot in the Park, and soon Hollywood followed. By the mid-1960s, he was starring opposite Natalie Wood. But his true rise came in 1969 with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Paired with Paul Newman, he became a global icon, and Sundance would forever be his name. The 1970s cemented his legend with films like Jeremiah Johnson, The Candidate, The Way We Were, and The Sting. He was more than a star. He was the voice of a generation disillusioned by politics, war, and social change. And when he turned to directing, his debut, Ordinary People, won the Academy Award for Best Director, proving that his artistry reached beyond the screen. But behind the fame was a man marked by grief. In 1958, Redford married Lola Van Wagenen, a woman whose strength anchored him in those early years. Together, they endured poverty, hope, and tragedy. Their first child, Scott, died at just 3 months old from sudden infant death syndrome. Though the pain never faded, they built a family again, raising Shauna, James, and Amy with love and devotion. But life struck cruelly again. In 2020, James Redford, a filmmaker and activist like his father, lost his battle with cancer at just 58. For Robert, losing both a baby son and a grown son decades later was a wound beyond words. He once said, "As a parent, you always want to protect your children, but sometimes you're powerless." And that helplessness is the hardest thing to accept. His marriage to Lola endured for 27 years, but the pressures of Hollywood, constant absences, and the weight of grief finally fractured their bond. They divorced in 1985, though Redford always spoke of Lola with deep respect, calling her the love who held him steady in his darkest times. Later, he found new relationships, but none endured until he met German artist Sibylle Szaggars. Unlike the fleeting romances of Hollywood, Sibylle brought him peace, authenticity, and a shared passion for art and the environment. In 2009, they married quietly in Germany, away from the cameras. Together, they built The Way of the Rain, an artistic project blending creativity and environmental advocacy. With her, Redford found balance, a life no longer about proving himself, but about giving back. and give back he did. Beyond his films, Redford reshaped cinema through the Sundance Institute and the Sundance Film Festival, which became the heartbeat of independent film. He gave unknown filmmakers, like Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh, and Chloe Zhao, the chance to tell stories that might have otherwise been silenced. To him, cinema wasn't about spectacle. It was about truth. That was his revolution. Quiet, but unstoppable. In his later years, Redford retreated from Hollywood, dedicating himself to painting, environmental work, and time with Sibylle in Utah. Yet even in retreat, his presence lingered like a shadow over the industry he helped reshape. Every role, every film he directed, every filmmaker he lifted up became part of a legacy larger than himself. Robert Redford's life was both dazzling and heartbreaking. He endured devastating losses, but transformed them into art that touched the world. From the defiant Sundance Kid to the courageous journalist in All the President's Men, from ordinary people to the Sundance Film Festival, his career was a constant search for honesty. And now, with his passing, Hollywood loses not only an actor, but a conscience. He was proof that legends are not built only on ovations in packed theaters, but on the values they leave behind for communities, for art, and for humanity. The passing of Robert Redford at 89 closes a glorious chapter in cinema, but his legacy, his films, his festival, his unyielding pursuit of truth will outlast the applause. His blue eyes may never again light the big screen, but every frame he left us has become sacred. In his silence, we bow our heads, not only to mourn, but to honor an immortal legend. Tell me, what Robert Redford moment stays with you the most? Was it the defiant grin in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the bittersweet romance of The Way We Were, or the quiet resilience of All Is Lost? Share your memory in the comments, so together we can keep the flame of Robert Redford burning bright.